Hey everybody, Jen here with the Sewing Report, and I want to share a few quick tips for glue basting in your sewing and quilting projects. Right now I'm working on the scrappy hexagon mug rug coasters. Quilting cotton, really cute fabric line called Ghost Tone. I do have some half-yard bundles in the Etsy shop, by the way, and I want to just share just a few quick things you need to know about glue basting if you're kind of new to it. It's a good way to save some time and hassle from using pins in certain situations. I also find it helps me really get accurate piecing just because you can be really precise keeping the fabric in place before you stitch it down. All right, a couple things to know though. You have to use this particular glue. There's a lot of different types of Elmer's glue. Make sure you are using Elmer's Washable school glue. This is safe, non-toxic. I believe the formula is proprietary and it's made for kids to be able to wash out of clothing and fabric. I recommend using this. I've even heard people say that even like the generic non-brand stuff doesn't work as well. Not sure about that. I've used both, but if you have any doubts, make sure to stick to Elmer's name brand washable school glue. It's very cheap. I know they sell like Quilter's basting glue, but again, this stuff is usually like $1 a bottle or something. Now, this does have a tip on the bottle. I actually would get a fine tip glue bottle. I used to have some in the Etsy shop, but I no longer do so. But look for something like this where it's got a really fine tip. Now, every once in a while, the tip will get clogged up a bit, so you'll need to take a pin or something, kind of unclog the tip. Or you can like wash out the nozzle if things get a little gummed up. Now, I've had people asking, does it gum up your sewing machine needle? In my experience, no, but I'm going to walk you through everything I do when I'm glue basting, but I personally have not run into the Elmer's washable school glue gumming up my needle. Normally when I do apply the glue, it's in areas that won't be seen on the finished project. So if there's like a little bit of residue, it doesn't really matter because it's like within the quilt binding, something like that. Make sure you're using Elmer's washable school glue specifically. Put it into a fine tip bottle like this. I also have my little Tula Pink Oliso project iron, and I will be linking a lot of the products I'm using featured down below in the description box and also in the video itself here on YouTube. I do have some affiliate links, but everything that you see here was purchased by me, and this is not a sponsored video, despite the obvious plug for Elmer's. And I'm also using these really cute sewing clips. I really like these, they're purple. So I have one done just to show you, and then I'm going to be doing a duplicate. And then, so you can see this one, I held it in place with the sewing clips until it dries, and then I will be stitching this down at the sewing machine. But you can see I don't need any pins because everything is held in place, and this glue is dried. I did this one the previous night. The other thing I would tell you is that you need to be making sure you're using natural fabric. This doesn't really work on polyester fabrics, anything synthetic, slippery polyester blend type fabrics. This works the best on quilting cotton, 100% cotton fabrics, can work on cotton linen blends. It also works on, I would say, medium weight to lightweight fabrics. So the glue basting probably isn't going to work out well on super heavy fabrics, heavy canvas, just because the strength of this adhesive is, not super strong. So make sure you are using, I would say, light to medium weight, cotton blend at most, but you'll have to test it out if you're trying to use it on different types of fabric other than quilting cotton or like regular cotton fabric. That's why it works best on quilting fabrics, and I know glue basting is very popular within the quilting sphere. All right, so I've got the Elmer's school glue already in this bottle here. I also will be using a dry iron to set and dry the glue. So that really helps so you don't have to wait for it to dry. All right, so let me turn the iron on here. Actually, let's do low. We'll do like low heat. You really don't need it to be super high at all, in my opinion. When you're applying the glue, use a light hand. You don't need to glop it on. Use like as little as you can get away with. That's why the fine tip bottle helps. I'm not using a ton. I did like a real fine line of glue. what I'm doing is I'm folding it in once and then I'll be folding it in twice to create my faux binding on the front here. So I'm going to be going around and just repeating this on each side of the hexagon. One way I can know that my fabric is pressed right is I want to make sure that I'm folding like to the point here. So that's a good way to know. Now, because there's a couple layers of fabric here, like I've already got 2 layers of fabric, I'm gonna apply a little bit more glue to this one particular spot just because it will probably need a bit more security, but it also won't show through on the front because it's nestled in between multiple layers of fabric. You can use a bit more glue as necessary when you're working with multiple layers of fabric here. And again, you can see I'm making sure my points are nice here. And I use glue basting a lot with quilt piecing. It might not work out if you are needing to press your seams open. So I actually did glue baste this piecing here on the front of my mug rug, but I was not pressing the seams open, I was pressing it to the side. If you do glue baste your seam and then you have to press it open, you're gonna have to like pull the whole thing apart, and that can be a little bit messy. In that situation, you might not want to use the glue basting if you have to press your seam open, because then you can get glue residue on your iron when you're pressing the seam open because there's glue on it. So you have to kind of pick and choose when and where you're going to glue baste. Now let's do this side here. So you can see I'm putting a little bit more glue, and I got a little bit of glue on this, the right side, but it comes off pretty easily if you catch it right away. And again, you can see I'm not putting a ton of glue on the part where it's just 1 layer of fabric and 1 layer of fabric here. I did put a little bit more glue on these sections where it's doubled up. A while back, I did do a bit of a test where I put a bunch of this glue on a piece of quilting cotton, like I really glopped it on, and then I tried to wash it in a bowl of water, and it actually pretty much did come out. So you can see I'm putting a little bit more glue on the doubled up section, but I'm really just putting a very thin layer on the rest of the section. All right. This project comes together pretty quickly. This is gonna be just a quick Halloween project I decided to do. I think it'll be really cute. You can always use another mug rug, right? For your drinks. Looks really cute on your table or your desk. And yeah, the good thing is if it gets on your fabric, like it's not the end of the world because, again, because this is washable glue. So that's why I like using this particular glue. And I do have other types of glue because I don't use this glue for all types of applications, but it works in a lot of situations and I don't have to worry about using pins. Plus this would be kind of difficult to pin just because there's so many layers of fabric by the end. Already like 4 layers of fabric, canvas, and quilt batting, and then you're adding like a bunch more layers with that. So this one's a little bit tougher. This side's gonna be the trickiest just because you got quite a few layers on each side. So I'm gonna use a little bit more glue. And then you can see I'm really keeping a pretty light hand for the rest of this. And I think this is good for this type of project. You're not going to be washing these mug rugs a whole lot. This is a good one to use glue basting on because you're not going to be washing these all the time. And even if you do, the glue is on the inside of the project. Even if there was glue residue left over, no one would see it because it's inside the layers of fabric. So I hit it with the dry iron, and with the glue dry, I found that it really has not caused any issues at the sewing machine, with the needle, anything like that. We're gonna fold in past the seam line here. I'm gonna be using more glue now because this is gonna need a little bit more help. Because there's already like 2 layers of fabric here, and then there's a bunch of fabric here, it's okay to use the glue more generously it'll be okay if you want to use a bit more of the glue here. So you just have to really make a choice and kind of know when to go real light with the glue and when you can be a little bit more heavy-handed with the glue. And don't use steam, just use a dry iron. Also, you can use these sewing clips to keep this in place for a little bit if you need to, which I will be doing. So you can see I'm going to use more glue here close to the outside edge. And then I also want to make sure that my points, you can see some of the glue kind of crept up, but that's okay. It'll dry. And if a little bit gets on the front of the project, it's not a huge deal. It will wash out. So you can see it kind of stayed pretty well, but I'm going to put a clip here to keep this in place. And then once it dries, you won't really have any issues, and it'll stay in place well enough to sew that it won't be shifting around. Also, I'll be using a walking foot to help prevent further shifting. You can see I'm using a bit more glue here than it was the first time around. And again, that's just because I've got more fabric that's going to be sandwiched together. You can really use a bit more glue. And again, even if you do get a little bit of glue on the project, it's not the end of the world. Also, this is like a water pen I've got. You can kind of wash this away. So if you do get any glue on your fabric, you can just sort of like wash it away. And if for some reason you do get glue residue on your iron, you can use an iron cleaner and it'll come off. And yeah, this is going to be on the inside of the project. No one will see it. So you can really go pretty wild with the glue because again, no one's ever going to know. Unless you're watching this video and you see me doing this. But a lot of quilters use the glue basting method for piecing. It helps you get sharper points and more accurate quilt blocks. So that's why I really like the glue basting method. Now this project is ready for the sewing machine where I will just edge stitch all around and then it will be finished. Pretty quick project, but I hope this answers some of your questions about glue basting. I want to just share a few real quick tips, but let me know what you think down below in the comments, and if you have any further questions, I will try to answer them, but I hope you found this helpful. Check out some of my other sewing, quilting, and embroidery videos here on the channel. I am Jen with the Sewing Report. I'll see you again in the next one. And remember, whatever you're doing, make it fun.